back to the OTC podcast. I'm Tarun Verma.
And I'm Abby Koenig.
Abby, so you are going to be the resident expert on this today.
I guess so.
There was a really cool CNN article that looks at whether millennial moms are more traditional and happier. Two interesting little bits. Happier,
Yeah,
too.
the happier is kind of nice. It makes you, as a new mom, I was like, what? I want to be a happier mom.
So how new of a new mommy are you? How
I'm
recently?
Brand new. I have 2 baby boys, and they are 2.5 months old right
2.5 months. Wow. So you're fresh.
Yes,
You are fresh.
I don't even consider myself a mom yet.
Wow. Okay.
But this, I mean, I do. But this article, struck me in a lot of different ways because being a new mom, for one, being a Gen Xer, so she sort of compares Gen Xers and millennials in this article, and I definitely consider myself a Gen Xer. But I also am a professor of a lot of millennials, so I sort of feel like I understand them. I did a lot of my graduate coursework on generational behavior, so I've studied this, so I think it's pretty interesting to see how, now that a lot of these kids, more or less, are becoming parents, how different that they treat their family life than I would have, and I am going to and already do.
So this is kind of complicated because, for one, you have your own predisposition to this. 2, you study this and teach this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So you come from so many different angles. So it's like, how do you break it down?
Well,
yeah, I know.
I think that as a Gen Xer, I related with a lot of what she was saying about sort of Gen X are a little more, not angry, but we kind of grew up sort of in a crappy place where our parents left us home and we had to sort of fend for ourselves.
What was it called? The latchkey kids,
Latchkey
right?
kids,
Yeah.
And as a parent, you don't want that for your kid because you went through it. So you sort of have this dichotomy where you're like, well, I don't want to make my kids stay at home by themselves, so I want to be a mother that's home. But then I did do that, and I turned out fine. So maybe my kids can kind of
do it too.
You know, I don't want them to be overly spoiled because I wasn't overly spoiled.
Right.
So you sort of like ride that fine line between, I don't want them to be just like how my childhood was, but at the same time, I turned out okay, and so they'll be fine.
You know what? I'm not looking forward to kids. That's going to be one crazy ride, I can already tell.
Yeah.
So now looking forward, now that you're a new mom, I'm sure that your mind has raced far ahead, 10, 15 years. How do you want to do it, right? For the next 10 years, how do you want to do it with your kids? Do you want to be home? Do you not want to be? Part-timing is a huge thing now.
Yeah.
Right? So do you want to do that? How do you want to do it with your kids, really?
Well, I definitely want to be home some. I think part-timing is the best thing that could happen. And when I envisioned my life, maybe 5 years ago, when I was like, here's what I want, I said, I'd like to teach because I think that makes my life a little more flexible. Right. I mean, in addition to really enjoying it, but it makes, summers off, or you teach one class in the summers, and that's not so bad, and then you get to spend some time with your kids. And I definitely don't want someone else raising my children, but I think that it's important that they go to daycare and be, have socialization. Okay. So being a stay-at-home mom for me, I don't think that I could do it. I don't think I could do it personally because I'm crazy, stir-crazy type of person. I need to be doing things at all times.
Right.
But I don't want to not see my kids every day, and I don't want to, miss anything. I would be there for their monumental, the moments that
you don't want to miss out on them.
I don't want to miss out on
You
it.
don't want to miss out on them.
Yeah.
Right. Now, when it comes to them going to school, now this is weird. This doesn't happen anymore, but back, I was born in Denver, Colorado, and I think at the age of, bear with me, I don't have kids, so I have no idea when these things happen, when you go to school, but you have kindergarten, you have pre-K, right?
Yep.
I had something back in my day that I guess my school offered was called Head Start. So it was pre-K.
Sure.
I don't know. Did they still have those?
They still have Head Starts, yeah.
Holy crap. Okay, cool. So I went to Head Start. So I started school really early. My parents were always working and whatnot. When we moved to Houston is when they imported my grandparents. So my grandparents pretty much took care of us while they were at work. But I was always in school. That was just, they were like, well, why send you to daycare where they're not going to really teach you much? They're just going to look at you.
Yeah.
And so they just was screw it, you're Indian, you need to learn from day one. Start learning. And I was like, oh, okay. Is that a smart thing to do? Like, have you thought about that? Are you going to be like the school type, or are you going to be, because I wasn't raised very creative. And that's something that I know I want to change in my kids, and that starts from a really young age. So
I think that's tough. I mean, that's a tough question. I definitely feel like we live in a world right now where kids are over everything.
overstimulated.
Like, overstimulated, over scheduled, over taught almost.
That's true.
I mean,
I totally forgot about that.
It's like their whole lives are planned out for them. I mean, I think certain classes of people, you know, it's not everybody, but there's like this stigma in a certain socioeconomic class. It's like my kid has to already be scheduled for like every single sport.
Piano, karate, swimming.
Exactly.
Like what?
Like when my husband and I found out I was pregnant, the first thing the people started saying was like, you should get on waiting lists for preschools. And I was like,
holy crap,
waiting
really?
list? What are you talking about? And by the way, I'm pregnant. Like, all I'm thinking about is ice cream right now. I don't want to think about where they have to go to school.
Are waiting lists that long?
They are so long.
What
I'm
the
already
hell?
Screwed. Like, my kids are 2 months old. They're not getting anywhere. And it's like, but if you don't get them in the right preschool, then they don't get in the right elementary school, then they don't get in the right college, and then they don't go to Harvard, and then they probably like will
When
sweep
the hell did this
sidewalks.
happen? I went to public school all my
too.
life. It was like college, right? It was just like you need to get into a good college. When did the shit start from pre-K? What is this?
It's crazy. It's a brand new thing. There's like this weird new parenting style of like pushing your kids super hard and not letting them have fun. And I feel like that's something I don't want to do. Sure, I want my kids to get ahead and be, you know, in the right place. I don't want them to fall behind. But I mean, we used to like run around outside and like play games. Like
wait, outside? What's
yes,
that?
what is that? Outside you speak of.
Jesus.
And that, I feel like that just doesn't happen anymore. Like imagination is hard to come by.
It is. You know, okay, so it's a little medical aside real quick, a little medical tangent. There are a record number of kids who come in and get vitamin D pills now for vitamin D deficiency. This is a big medical thing that is plaguing our generation.
Because
people don't go outside. So you get vitamin D from sun, right? Obviously. Yeah. So people just don't go out into the sun. And when I see little kids come in, I went, what the hell is this? Because I think I was maybe the last generation of kids that actually played outside before the Xboxes and the Wiis got to them. My brother, he got caught in that cycle. He was screwed from day one. I actually used to play outside. I was like, all it took was a rock and a stick and your imagination, and the world was endless for you. And that shit doesn't happen anymore.
Nope, it doesn't. And we don't allow it. Like, we don't allow make our kids do things. And I don't think that that's beneficial. I mean, to me, it's so weird that like schools are getting worse and worse and worse. Yeah. Yet they're putting more restrictions, they're putting more tests, they're putting more X, Y, and Z. But they just keep getting worse. Our kids just can't. I don't know. I don't know why that is. I was just gonna say I'm not a teacher, but I am. I just don't understand what that's all about. But I think this new generation, the millennial generation, are according to this article, not to go back to the article, but saying that they want to be home with their kids more. Right. And I think that's really nice. And I think everybody should do whatever it is that they want to do. But it is a generational difference. It is difference of kids who grew up in homes that didn't necessarily have two parents, or maybe they were raised by their grandparents, and the kids who had moms at home, because more mothers are at home. And so I think if you grew up with that, that's what you want, and that's what seems normal. That's what seems normal.
Absolutely. I know that I grew up kind of lower to middle class. We didn't grow up with too much money, so when I started dating girls that were telling me, I was raised by a nanny, I was like, a nanny? Wow. She used to live at the house with us. What, a live-in nanny? This is a thing? This happens? Like, we had my grandparents, right? So that's how I was always raised. I was like, oh, well, you know, you either send them to daycare or you keep them at home with your grandparents, or, you know, your mom stays home. And my mom worked part-time. And so in the morning, while my grandparents had the energy to be up, they were watching us. And then when they fell asleep around 3, then my mom came home. Right. That's kind of how it worked. And my dad came home in the evening, and then there was a full house there. That was cool. So that's what I was raised with. But I didn't know that they have these nannies, these full-time nannies. It was like, you almost don't even parent your kids. You just kind of have fun with them. And then when they start getting rowdy, just kind of give them back to the nanny. And I'm like,
Yeah, that is a thing. I mean, I think it's been a thing for a while, but it is.
it's been a thing for a while. Again, I'm nowhere near this, so right. So
No,
you've seen this longer. So what's your take on the nanny?
I spent a brief time working at a children's music school, like a Mommy and Me music school.
Oh, okay.
In Manhattan, when I was living in New York.
Wow.
So this was like money. So there was money involved.
Yeah.
And the moms would come with their nannies and their kids, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like, oh, and we'll play recorder or whatever, and it cost them $1,000. But the moms would leave, and the nannies would stay and like play recorder with their kids while the moms went and did like yoga or Pilates or yoga lattes which was in at the time.
It's Manhattan, man.
Yeah,
Gosh.
and I always thought that was so shocking. Like, you don't work, you have a nanny. You can't even go to like Mommy and Me music school with your kid. I don't understand that. It's just, why have children? You know, that's what I think. I mean, if you're not going to be there and be a part of their lives, why would you bother to have them?
That's very true. And again, this I saw up in Dallas around these really, really rich people up in Plano and Frisco, and I was like, wow, everyone's got a nanny. And I didn't even know this. Little tidbit for you. Down on the border of Texas, Brownsville and all that, I had a couple of friends who grew up from there telling me stories. They have, they're essentially illegal immigrants, but they would have these live-in nannies from Mexico. And that's how it was. They lived on the compound, because in Brownsville, everyone who lives there supposedly has money, so they all have compounds. They have these places for their maids, and the maids actually teach the kids stuff. So, like, I had a friend. She was an Indian girl, right? She didn't really know how to speak her language, her native tongue, but she knew Spanish like no other, which I thought that was like one of the good positives I've seen out of it. I was like, well, at least you fluently learned Spanish. That's pretty awesome.
I would love
in Texas.
if my kids spoke Spanish fluently.
Yeah. So I learned not to look at it completely in a negative light, but I was like, you know what? In that situation, it was really, really cool. And you get, especially if the nanny is not of your ethnicity, then all of a sudden your kids get exposed. And I'm very much about wanting to expose my kids to the world and different cultures and all that, and languages. We don't know enough languages as Americans, I feel like.
Yes.
I remember I had some European friends who could speak 7 different languages. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I could do that.
And here we have so many different I mean, America's like a melting pot, but it's not, because nothing's really melted. It just sort of separates and like congeals in different areas of the pot.
That's very true.
And we should be speaking Spanish and French and Chinese and Japanese to our kids. I mean, that would be amazing. I would love if my kids learned 7 different languages.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with having a nanny, so I don't want it to come across like that.
Right.
I have somebody who comes and helps me in the afternoons a couple of days a week, because you need help. It's hard, especially
Was it Hillary Clinton said it takes a village to raise a kid?
It takes an entire village.
That's why I may vote for her if she runs next time. But no, seriously, it's very, very true. I noticed it. I always thought to myself, like, oh, it'd be great. Me and my wife will take care of the kids and all that when we get older. I don't want to live away from my parents. But then I'm like, no. Now that I've gotten older, I'm like, I need them as close as possible. Yeah. I need them within driving distance so I can drop them off at my mom's house. Holy crap.
Whatever makes you happy and whatever you think is a good parenting style is what you should follow. And there's a lot of articles that have come out in the past few years, this one included, that's like, do it this way, no, do it this way, or this way makes you happier. Like, whatever makes you happy and whatever is good for you and your family, then go with that. Because one style that's good for one person is not going to be good for another person.
Well, here's a question I have. So, and it's funny because we always leave Mr. Dad out of all of this, right?
Sadly.
But you want what's best for the kids. You want to be able to expose them to so many different things, swimming, whatever, hockey, this and that, just so they know growing up, like get them exposed to music and all that. But at the same time, you're a human being too as a mommy. Like, you have your own ambitions, and you can't just say, hey, like, my parents made their life about us when they had them. And that's one thing I adamantly don't want. I don't want, when I have kids, to make my whole life about them. So I want to be able to maintain my own individuality and still be able to pursue the loves and passions that I have. How do you strike a good balance with that?
I'm trying to figure that out.
Oof.
So if anyone listening knows, please call me and let me know. I don't know. I mean, I agree. And I think that being a little bit older of a mom, I mean, not in my 20s, so I sort of had some time to get myself into a place where I wanted to get myself to, but I'm not there yet. I still have a lot on my plate that a lot of my bucket list that have not been crossed off. But it's important to me that I still do it, that I get it crossed off. And if it's that I still have to go, I have to go back to work, I have to take, a couple hours out of the day and write or do whatever it is that I want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think you're right. Like, just losing yourself 100% as a mom or a dad, it's not good for anybody. I don't think it's good for anybody.
It's true, and it's only just because of what I've seen. So my parents were the type that they threw everything behind us.
Mm-hmm.
How do you detach from that? And so I'm seeing my parents now trying to find hobbies and this and that. But yet I do have some uncles and stuff who always maintained a certain hobby, or they were in the real estate market. So they always, maybe they were the dad that weren't at his home as much, but when the kids went off to college, they weren't lost. They were like, oh, I'm good. I've got all this stuff that I do on the side. Maybe my one regret was I should have spent more time with the kids, but they weren't aimless when the kids went off to college. Is that something that worries you? Do you ever worry about that? Or am I just weird?
No, I do and I don't. But I don't because I'm purposefully thinking about it, and I've been thinking about it when I was 20 or 25 and 30 and whatever, like you are. I mean, I've never wanted to be that type of mom that doesn't have other things going on for herself, who just is all about the kid 100%. And I hope that they don't resent me for that, but I don't want to resent them either. Like, I think that would be the worst thing ever if you are a parent and you resent your kid for sort of getting in the way of doing some of the things that you wanted to do. And not to say that having a kid shouldn't be 100% of your focus. I think it should be for a while, but then, they're 10, 11, 12, like, you can do some things for yourself too.
Right.
I just think that I don't know. I know I'd go crazy. Some parents, that's what they want to do. They just want to, like, love on their kid all day. I don't
love on their kid all day. Show them so much love.
I don't think that I could be that.
How do you create that village? Like, do you like that sentiment that she had, Hillary Clinton, where it takes a village to raise a child? You got to have the child surrounded by so many different people. It may not have to be family necessarily. Could be adopted family, whatever. Just constantly around so many different people and personalities. What do you think about that?
I think it's, beneficial, like you were saying, about being around different cultures and ethnicities. Like, as many people as you get to know as young as you are, I think it makes you a better, more well-rounded person. Do we need all these people to raise our children? I'm not sure, because then it kind of brings me back to these, like, all these handbooks about raising your kids and
there's too many cooks in the kitchen.
So sometimes there's too many cooks in the kitchen.
It ruins a dish. You can't have too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So what are your strategies to streamline that?
To streamline.
Like, do you have a source that you look up to? Like, obviously, is it your parents that you kind of are basing a lot of stuff on?
Oh,
or
no,
what's your handbook? Where are you getting your handbook?
Look at the way my parents did it and then do the exact opposite of everything that they did. I don't know. I have an older sister, and I think her kids are great, and I think she's great, and she works part-time. She has a lot of hobbies. She does acting and comedy, and so she does the things that she likes to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and she still is a great, great, great mom. Her kids are great. They're funny and smart and interesting, and I think she's a good person to look up to, for sure.
A good person to look up to?
Yeah. And I don't know. There's a lot of friends I have who I think are good parents who have great kids, and I don't know. And then just kind of
your peers, because I've noticed that as I've gotten older, and I'm sure you can kind of attest to this too. Since you're a Gen Xer and I'm a millennial, maybe there was a little bit of a difference here, but I grew up with a decent amount of angst, right? Parental angst. I don't know why. My generation had this. I think it was stupid. I don't know why we did. Our parents were great. My friends' parents were all great, but they all grew up with the same thing. Our generation just grew up having a certain parental angst. And now that I've gotten older and I look back at it, I went, there's no damn handbook. It's your parents, so you assume that they know what they're doing at all times. They don't.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, now you are a parent now, right? You don't have a handbook. You don't have it all figured out.
No.
It's a good chunk of it is winging it to the best of your ability, right?
Definitely. I think so. I mean, there's a million handbooks out there, but I think that, yeah, you're right. When you realize that your parents are human beings, it's sort of eye-opening.
You cut them so much more slack. I'm like, they did the best they can with what they had. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
I mean, the books and stuff are all cool. Those are all tips and guides, but it's just like anything else. And, we'll use that teacher mentality. But there's only so much that you can read and learn and do on the philosophy side of it, but execution is a whole different beast. You
Yes.
could be bred and raised in Harvard, but if you've never worked a day in your life, you really don't have that knowledge. You don't know what the reality of it is. So when you get out there, it's a different beast.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right? Execution is totally different than reading it in a book. So that's the big thing. They never had, none of us have had execution experience. I imagine, well, you had 2 in one go. I don't know if you plan to have more kids, but I've noticed parents tell me whatever mistakes they made with the first kid, they knew not to make with the second, just trial and error.
Yeah, you suffocate the first one, then the second one you're like, oh, whatever. Somebody told me like the first one you sterilize their bottles, the second one you wash them in the sink, the third one like you spit in it and swish it around, something like that. And I think that's kind of true. I mean, it seems like it's kind of, although I'm already of the like spit and washing around.
It's all good. Yeah, it's fine.
They're brothers. Just swap them out. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's a million handbooks, but there's no handbook at the same time. And
that's very true.
To this article, no matter what generation you grow up in, whatever makes you happy, if it's being a stay-at-home mom, if it's going back to work, do whatever is good.
Maintain your individuality.
Yeah, do whatever's good.
I think that's a really great thing. Now, are there, last thing, because this is really a selfish question on my part, because I want to know when the time finally came to have kids, was there a handbook? Was there a guide that you went to kind of prepare yourself for it? Or was it just something you just, I mean, it's kind of like most of anything I've learned in life. You just kind of jump into it and kind of figure it along as you go sort of thing. Is it like that? Or did you have any pointers or any advice for people looking to possibly have kids, how to prepare themselves for it?
I think the way to prepare yourself is to know that your life is going to change 100%.
Ooh.
I think that as much as you say to yourself, and I'm of that mindset, like, I can still go out and have coffee. I can still, meet up with people. I can still do the things that I did before. It's like, yeah, you can, but then you can't. You have to think about bringing bottles and think about, putting carriages together and whatever. So as much as you can try and think your life's not going to change, it's really going to change. And get a dog first, because a dog changes your life.
That's true.
I don't know.
I look at dogs as a half child. I look at it as a half child.
Like, you have to think about somebody other than yourself. I think that's what it kind of comes down to.
That I didn't realize that up until about a year ago. I was always like, I never grew up around pets. My mom has a really, really dark fear of pets. She finds a dog and she runs across the street. She's like, oh my God. So we just never grew up with it. So I never understood why you should have a pet. I was like, I don't get it. They're fun to play with, but then I gotta poop them and feed them and clean them. But you're right. It's a precursor, right? It gets you ready for it. I knew so many friends who, after college, they went and bought a dog or a cat or something, and I'm like, why? And I'm like, oh, kind of get you ready for the next level.
Yeah, it's like a responsibility.
Baby steps.
Yes,
baby steps.
Total baby steps.
Very cool.
So that's my advice. Get a dog.
Get a dog. Or a cat. But I heard cats are less maintenance, though.
Yeah, so get a dog.
They kind of just
leave
poop
a cat
and clean
alone.
themselves, and they just do that.
But dogs need you.
Good points. Very good points.
Dogs and kids, same thing.
I'll quote you on that. They're the same thing. They're dogs and kids. Well, awesome. Well, we're going to end this podcast now. Did you have any last little tidbits you wanted to throw out there? Besides kids and dogs.
Besides kids and dogs.
Them being the same thing.
No. I mean, when you have kids, it changes your world and in the best way ever. The best way possible. I must
say, at least, 2 months? Your kids are 2 months, right?
Yeah.
You don't have like bubble gum in your hair, and you don't look like a mess yet.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, I know we're only 2 months into this thing, so I'm hoping, maybe in about a year or so, maybe you might be that person. But right now, you look pretty well put together so far.
That's awesome that you're saying that, 'cause I don't feel that. I'm running on pure caffeine. So.
Holy, well, how's that different than most of your 20s?
Not at all. Not at all.
As a student, that's all I ever had. It was just breakfast tacos and Red Bull. That's all I lived off of. I had no nutrition in my body until 2 years ago. Jesus. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.